tricky things this afternoon and then lost track of time and lost my mind. And I am Rich Kinsey. I've been with VSTE for a number of years, helping with the conference committee. And we are thrilled to have so many folks attending our virtual VSTE. The morning sessions were really quite good, and I think everyone's very pleased. So we're really excited about this. Note that your microphones are muted and that the questions will be placed in the chat. The presenter will kind of guide us on to when they may want to answer things. You can raise your hand, and then Heather and I will help, mostly Heather will help moderate all the conversations, and I'll be kind of a second in there. So without further ado, Jeannie Ingram is going to present tonight, and enjoy the session.
Hey everyone, my name is Jeannie Ingram. I'm the instructional technology coach at Garfield High School in Prince William County. And I wanted to thank everybody for spending your evening with me tonight. I am going to go ahead and start sharing my screen first. I'm going to talk about how to create a digital breakout using OneNote. And my agenda for this evening, I'm going to share some ways that you can use breakout activities. I'm also going to show you how I repurposed a free BreakoutEDU game. And then I want to show you how you can start, edit, and lock one of the breakout games. So I'm sure, because you're here, many of you are familiar with breakout activities, either the in-person kind that use the locks and the boxes and the handouts and things you can hang around the room and the magic pens. Maybe you've also seen or heard about digital breakout games. You may have also found that a lot of breakout games come as Google Docs. And if you are not a Google school, that may make you feel sort of left out. But I like to use digital breakout games in OneNote. And one of the reasons I like that is because everything lives in one nice, neat package. You don't have separate Google Docs. You don't have all of your tip cards in different places. Everything lives here in one digital location. And one of the important things is that I hear a lot of tech-savvy kids figure out how they can back out of the digital game and they can get to the answer codes. And you can't do that in OneNote. There's only one way to go, and that is forward. So in this document I have up on my screen, I'm going to walk you through some sample items and some ways that you can use digital breakouts. So when I create a digital breakout, I like to create some sort of a welcome page where I give some instructions, tell a little overview of what this breakout is. Going forward, I need to keep reiterating that passwords are case sensitive. When you're creating games or quizzes, passwords are case sensitive to unlock the next section. I also need to let you know that games must be started in the online version of Office 365 in your OneDrive, but then they need to be completed using the desktop version of OneNote. Students do not need the desktop version to play the game, because when you share it out to them, you'll be sharing from your OneDrive, but you as a teacher will need to have the desktop version of OneNote. I've put together just some sample items that you can include. Maybe it's a review packet, maybe it's some sort of activity that you want students to work on together. And you can use math problems, you can use word problems, you can do multiple choice questions, you can even use graphics that coordinate to multiple choice questions. You can even use open-ended questions. And at the end of each page, I like to remind students to write their answers down and what they need to do next. So I say, you think you're ready to move on? Click the Section 3 tab. Down here, I put my lock code. Oops. My lock code. And I'm just going to copy that and put it into the next section. Paste that in there, go forward. And you can create as many sections as you want. At the end, I like to put some sort of congratulations, letting students know that they made it. And when you create your games, you can get as creative as you want using different questions, different types of answers. You can use fonts, you can use images, you can embed recorded messages. You can also put in videos. When you're assigning these to students, you can do individual games. Maybe it's a review packet you want your students to work on individually, or maybe you want them to work on something together. Maybe it's a more involved type of a game, or you can make it a contest between students. You can create several password protected sections for students to work through. I think digital breakouts are great for test review, SubPlans, remediation, and so much more. There's just so many different ways that you can use breakout games. For instance, if you are like my school division, we have some asynchronous days and some synchronous days where the teachers are Zooming with students. But if you have some asynchronous days where you want students to do assignments, breakouts make great activities for that. For instance, you can create a breakout with instructions for the day. In this one, I'm having students watch a video, and then they need to answer the questions below, for example. I also like to remind students to write down their answer codes on a piece of paper so that if it takes more than a certain amount of time to continue working through the breakout game, the pages do lock after 5 minutes, and if they have their answers written down, they'll be able to go back and unlock sections and move forward. Or if it takes them more than one sitting to work through a game, they'll have those codes written down. So this would be an asynchronous day. Maybe I'm having them watch this video and then they answer some questions to move on to the next section of the game. And you can do as many sections as you want, having them continue to work through the game until they get to the end. And then you can have some sort of, yay, congratulations, you made it. One thing I note here is that you really should show your students how to play the breakout game so that they know they need to walk through these sections and they know how to do the unlocks. You may even want to create a sample demo for students that you quickly show them how it works before letting them go on to their own. Similar to asynchronous plans, I think they make great sub-plans. If you're out for the day, you can tell them you have some sort of activity planned for them. Maybe it's an adventure story, a review, a worksheet with locking clues. You can even have students create their own breakout games. If you're like our division, all of our students have their own Office 365 accounts with the OneDrive, and they can create their own breakout games. And then what you would leave for the substitute is some sort of a link that students need in order to get into the game or the activity. If you're really creative and like to create your own adventure stories, that's something else you can plan for your students. In this sample, I wrote a little story. The wagon twirled through the air and landed right in the middle of the battlefield. John and Mary got out and started to look around. They could hear muffled voices in the distance, the sound of horses galloping in all directions. They knew in an instant they were stuck smack in the middle of a Civil War skirmish. So then maybe you have some sections over here that you want students to go to. For instance, here would be the codes. They could actually just copy and paste these codes. This is not anything that they would need to figure out at this point. I just created one sample page for the Battle of Gettysburg. And as you can see, I've posted in extra images. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to go to the Battle of Gettysburg, which is my next section down here. I'm going to put in that password. And that would take them to the section on the Battle of Gettysburg. And then you'd give them some sort of assignment you want them to do. And what I said is I want them to watch the video at the link below and read the 10 facts about the Battle of Gettysburg to see what John and Mary learned. And maybe I've got the facts, maybe I supply those. In this activity, the facts are actually already there. So there's a video and then there's some facts. And next I tell them, okay, go back to section 1. You can choose another battle to learn about in order to keep going in the page. Whatever it is you want students to do. Get creative, use lots of ideas, use videos. And then I say, answer the questions on the following link. And then I put in a link to a Microsoft form or maybe some sort of a worksheet that students would do. Maybe they need to write down some of these facts. Maybe I have some things partially done and some open answers they would fill in. But this is an example of a sort of a create your own adventure type story. So speaking of Microsoft forms and links, I often get asked, well, how do you know that your students are participating? What's the proof? What I like to do is some sort of an exit ticket on the last page. And that exit ticket for me is a link to a Microsoft form. And on that form, maybe they have to provide some sort of information from the game. Maybe there's some questions you provide on that form, or they need to write a reflection. You can also ask them to upload a document that tracks those codes. Maybe you supply some sort of a Word document to them, and they track section 1, here was my code. Section 2, here was my code. For instance, let's go to 1. This is my Microsoft form. Oh, it wants me to sign in. So here's my exit ticket. And you would ask for your students' names, maybe what's something you learned, or maybe what's the main idea. And you can also upload to Microsoft Forms. So maybe you have them upload their code document, and that's just proof that they did it. Otherwise, how would you know? You can also use breakouts to replace the physical locks that you would use in a classroom. Maybe they get locked, or the codes go missing, or for whatever reason, the letters peel off for some reason. You can actually create a breakout document where students would put in their own, the codes to see if they're moving correctly in the right order. So maybe you have one of these sections over here that corresponds to the number locks. Maybe you have one section that corresponds to the letters. You might also have the directional locks where U equals up and D is down, L is left, R is right, and so on. I know some games also have the color locks. Maybe B is the blue lock, R is the red. And those are the codes that students would put in to move on to the next section. There are tons of games in BreakoutEDU. Perhaps you're familiar with it or not. There's a website, BreakoutEDU. It's an amazing site, lots of games. You can buy a subscription to be able to use more of the games, but there are a lot of free games in there. There's some free games that are the in-person games and also the digital games. For instance, if you go to the BreakoutEDU, you'll have to create an account, free account, just to get in there. If you search free, you'll come up with all kinds of activities that you can repurpose for your own needs. There are some digital examples. I'm moving a little slow. And then there are also some examples that you need to use the kit. And one of the things I did, just as an example of how you can repurpose some of those breakout games, I took this game, Trapped in the Upside Down, one of my favorite shows, Stranger Things. And what I did is I downloaded the free items. It comes in a PDF, and I did some screenshots of some of those items. And let me move over to that game I created. So here it is, we're trapped in the upside down, and as a member of the Hawkins Middle School AV Club, you're distraught to find that your friend has gone missing. And you and the remaining members of your party need to find him. So I've given a little story here, credit to BreakoutEDU. And then I would tell my students, go to the evidence section. Over in the evidence section, You can see this is where I've added extra pages. These pages don't lock, so the students can freely move through those. And if you've ever played a breakout game, you know you have to look through all of the material, and sometimes you'll find that things are different colors. You'll notice right here in the middle, BIT dot. Keep looking through all of the material. And maybe this is a good thing that you would want multiple students to work on together as a group. You could even put them in a Zoom breakout room and have students work through them together. So we're looking at the next page. Here's the press release. And students will see that there's some other different color words right here. Here in the missing persons page, there's some more colored words here at the top. And the kids will start to notice these the more they play the breakout games. Down here, I have some of the clues from that original game. And these are some colored letters. And the kids will eventually figure out, or you might have to give them a clue. Sometimes you have to give them a clue on what to look for. These letters match up with this colored box. And if you were to fill in that colored box, you would find that it says, "Find my X-Men." Students might have to keep going through all this evidence. Here in this box in the center, it will say he wanted his X-Men number 134. That is actually the clue to the next section, 134. And in this section, I say, did you find the website link to Will's secret message? Go back to the evidence, and that's where they would have found, remember I said there's some colored letters. What it actually is a bit.ly link to the next section. And what students would need to do is open that bit.ly link. And that bit.ly link is actually, it's cute. It's a little recorded walkie-talkie, and it taps out some Morse code. And that's why I've included this Morse code chart for students to figure out what is the next part. And what that's, the Morse code typed out is the word fridge. So going to the next section, I'm going to type in fridge. Go forward. Yay, you found the key. Now there's just more parts that they need to continue walking through. Looking at this, how do we get Will from one side of the screen to the other? And this corresponds to the directional lock code. Again, this was an actual physical game that EDU provided. And the digital lock, or I'm sorry, the directional lock makes Will have to go left, up, left, up, left. So that is the directional code for the next section, LU, LU, L. And then, yay, we did it. We saved Will. We broke him out of the upside down. So that's just sort of a quick way that I repurposed an existing breakout game. It did not take me very long to copy and paste some of these things. It did not take long to set these locks. So that's just one of the fun games that I wanted to share as a way that you can repurpose some existing games. What I want to do now is I want to show you how to start one of these breakout games, because I mentioned you need to start them in your Office 365 account, but finish them in the client version or the desktop version of OneNote. So I'm going to quickly start a game to show you how it goes. I'm going to go to New, OneNote, and I'm just going to call this Sample Game and create. And I'm still in the online version. It's going to create the game for me. A little bit slow on the Wi-Fi. And there we go. What I want to do first is I'm going to add, I'm going to add a couple of sections. So call this section 1. Add another section, and you can just keep doing as many sections as you think you want for your students. You can give this a title, I'm just going to call this welcome. Over here on the left, I'm also going to rename this section. I call this welcome. So after I get a couple of the basics set up, I'm going to open in the desktop app. Not right now. Okay, so here I am in the desktop app. Showing me some misplaced sample. Oh, I want to go back to my sample. There we go. All right, so these are the extra sections that I created. And here on this welcome page, I would paste some graphics, some welcome, some information about the game, a little background, maybe some instructions. And then in section 1, this could be my start. And if I have several pages that I want kids to work on, I could add extra pages. Oops. Page 2. Now, here's how you lock the pages. And this is key to having to open this in the desktop version. If you right-click on your sections, you'll see that you have an option called Password Protect, Add Password. I'm just going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4 as a sample. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then you'll see you have a little lock icon. You'll know that's one of your locking sections. Same thing down here. I'm going to password. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I want to password protect, add a password, 1, 2, 3, 4. Confirm it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Click OK. Give it a second. And now you'll see I have some locks. A word of advice, you need to be careful about putting in your passwords so that your students can properly unlock things. Because if you make a mistake and accidentally lock it and you can't get back in, that's the end of your OneNote. There isn't really a way to crack that code. And I can right click, password protect. All at once, I can lock all my sections. And then you'll see my lock is closed. All right, so I think I'm going to return to the room.
Hey, Jeannie, we had a question. We want one of us asking to know if this could be used in Teams. Do you know?
Oh, in Microsoft Teams? Sure. Yeah. Sure. I don't see why not. I haven't used it that way, but I don't see why you couldn't use it in Teams. Sure, because it's all Microsoft related. One of the things, let me share something else that I have provided to you. I've given you a handout. It's back on my page. You can download this, and it is a document that actually walks you through all of those steps that I did to create the OneNote with written instructions, some tips that I've included, how to add the passwords, how to lock all the sections, even a reminder if you want to provide students with some sort of a little chart or a Word document where they can track their codes. Because again, the sections do lock after 5 minutes. So sometimes students will need to write them down if they have to go back and finish the game, or they need to get back into a section. Maybe they didn't do part of the a previous section, they need to go back. So I think it's nice just to give them a chart to write down their codes. One of the pieces of advice I give in here is I like to use bit.ly as a link shortener, because when you share from the OneDrive, you get a really long link, and that can be hard for students to manage. But if you want to create a bit.ly, it makes it a little bit easier to manage. Going through my document, at the end, I've given you a link to the sample that I originally walked through. I give you the my little abbreviated sample from Trapped in the Upside Down, and a link to the original in case that's something you wanted to use, how I found that. Also in here, I have a link for Microsoft templates. There is a page that has 3 templates that you can use if you're interested in creating a breakout game and want to go from there. You can find on the internet lots of breakout games. So here is actually a link to a Google search on OneNote Breakout Games. And then I've also provided the link to BreakoutEDU and some of those free games. So if you want to grab that, you are free to do that. All right, so back to me. Yes, okay, so here's a question. The link to my presentation, yes, in that document. If you want to grab that from my presentation page, grab that PDF. All of the things I've talked about are here. I'm looking at the questions. You're piloting Schoology. I'm sure you could probably paste a link in Schoology to any of your breakout games, as long as you're a Microsoft school and have access to the Microsoft Office and the OneDrive and the OneNote. Sure, you could paste a link and have students go there. I don't know if that means if you could embed it into Schoology. I'm not familiar with embedding into Schoology or not.
I'm not sure.
Jeannie, we have about 5 more minutes.
Sure.
Just want to give everyone a heads up.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Schoology does have an app you can add. Okay, good. Good to know. Thank you. Anne Marie, thank you. Can I share my slides? It actually wasn't a slide. That was the OneNote document that I shared. This was, let me see. I'm going to share my screen again. In that document I showed is that this whole thing that I shared with the samples and asynchronous and SubPlans and how to use some exit tickets. All of it is linked right in that PDF. So, yep, it's all yours. All right, any other questions on how that works? Yeah, it is. It's a lot to think about, and you do have to play with it a little bit and get used to it. One thing I wanted to, let me go back and share real quick. I created that just the sample game where I just added a few pages. One of the things I really like about using the OneNote client desktop version and also having it sync directly into your OneNote. I think that's a really nice feature. I do most of my work here on the desktop version, and it automatically syncs back into the OneDrive. So I think that's really nice. Okay, any other questions for me? On my PDF document, I have my email on there. If you want to reach out, feel free, go for it. I'm happy to help you out with anything you need.
Jeannie, were you interested in going into Discord in the Washington room after this to see if anyone wanted to continue the chat?
Sure, I'll hop over and take a look. Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone familiar with Discord? I know this is the first day. It's a continue the conversation link. And you can join Discord, which is a big gaming communication social media tool that we are using throughout VSTE to be able to continue the conversations and have additional conversations in various areas, including chat support. So if you haven't been there, you just click on there and you can get in pretty quickly. And Jeannie will be there, and I'll be glad to help anyone who needs to get in.
Sure. Where are you sending me? Are you putting me in hashtag Washington?
Yes.
Okay. I'm there now.
Terrific.
Yep.
That way, you know, some people may still want to think, they may be a little bit more hesitant, and this will be, kind of a social media, and give it a few minutes. And if anyone wants to go over there, please join. Again, if you go into your Sched, there's the continue the conversation button. It'll take you right there. So,
great. Well, thank you all. I appreciate you joining me this evening.
That was really terrific.
Thanks. I know it was quick. I know we didn't have a lot of time, but if anybody has questions, email, and I'm over in the Discord room now.